What is up, everybody? Adam Hill, part of your Vegas Nation coverage team for the Las Vegas Raiders here with your weekly Tuesday Q&A. My turn. So you guys are stuck with me this week. And make sure you send in your questions all week long. We'll answer pretty much anything you got on the Raiders. So just make sure you get that sent in through Twitter or through the Vegas Nation site. However you want to send it into us, get it here and we will make sure you answer your questions. I definitely got a couple up on Twitter that we can get into right now as we move along, and then just kind of talk about what is going on with the Raiders right now as we go through this on a Tuesday, as we said, each and every Tuesday with Vegas Nation. Let's get into a couple of the questions that are up there right now, and make sure we send out the link to join in. If you guys want to join in, just send it to your friends up on Twitter right now, and we'll talk about the Raiders for a little bit here. So I definitely teased this earlier, but I'll get into it right now because somebody did want to know what I was talking about when I said a potential quarterback controversy going. No, there's not a controversy of who the starting quarterback is. That is Derek Carr, no question about it. He is the starter. He went into the camp as a starter. I don't even think it was an open competition, and he has established himself as the starting quarterback, no question. I think the bigger question is who is the backup quarterback. Now, Marcus Mariota is, of course, in the plans to be the backup quarterback. He's one of the higher paid backup quarterbacks in the league. There's been no question about his struggles throughout camp. It's been well documented. Everybody has talked about it. If you've been following along with myself or Vinny out at practice every day, it's been very obvious to see that he's struggling. Now, they're trying to adapt a lot of what he does. They're trying to kind of change his motion a little bit. They're changing his mindset and learning a new system, which by all accounts is incredibly complicated with the Raider system. So there's a lot going into his struggles, but he definitely is struggling. So my question is who is the backup quarterback right now? It's going to be Marcus Mariota at some point, I would imagine. First of all, he's not at practice the last few days, so they got to work that out. He's got to get out of practice. I'd imagine he is the guy. But I feel like if you had to have a game tomorrow, if the Raiders were actually playing tomorrow, which they're not, they're a couple weeks away, I feel like it would be tough to put Mariota in a game the way that he has kind of struggled, and of course, not taking into account the injury right now, but I think it would be tough to throw him out there. I think Peterman might be the guy to start the season, which sounds crazy, but I just think you're more comfortable with where he is right now. And we know that Marcus Mariota can win games. The team believes in him. This is not really an indictment on Marcus Mariota at all, even though it seems like it might be. I just think right now, the way that they have looked in where they are in the process of kind of overhauling what they want with Marcus Mariota, I think it might be a tough decision they have right now. Again, I fully expect Marcus Mariota to be the backup quarterback and even maybe somebody that they think about in the future. But it's a process that they're going through, and they have to get there first. So let's get into some of the questions that were submitted. I did see a question on whether Javen White's status as potentially making the roster is impacted by the trade for Raekwon McMillan this week. Unfortunately, for people that are locals that have really been following the story, the answer might be yes. It might impact where Javen White is with this team. Javen White, for those that don't know, undrafted rookie free agent out of UNLV, a guy that was just a defensive player. I mean, I think he's going to be settled in as a linebacker at the NFL level. But at college, they just pretty much did whatever he needed to do. They did it with him. They put him at safety a lot, linebacker quite a bit. They put him up on the line of scrimmage. And he even played corner at times, which is insane to think about. That there were games, especially the Colorado State game, where they were just getting torched by one of the best receivers in the Mountain West Conference. And the solution that they came up with was, hey, Javen, why don't you go cover that guy? And it actually worked. He actually did a really good job in that spot. So Javen White is just a really, really talented defensive player. And that was pretty clear to the Raiders right away. I mean, if you talk to coaches, if you talk to other players on the defense, they rave about how well Javen White adapted to everything they want to do, everything they want to do schematically. He was so good in the Zoom meetings, in the classroom, learning the defense. And then he stood out when they got on the field. Fast, athletic, can do whatever is asked of him, to play multiple positions. And everybody raved about him as a potential undrafted free agent making the team as a linebacker. Now, you bring in Raekwon McMillan, which does change the dynamic of things. I think it's more out of, first of all, just improving the team. But second, Tanner Muse, the rookie out of Clemson, has struggled to adapt. He played more safety in college, played a little bit of everything like Javen, but he played a lot more safety. And it's a different level of, where your eyes are at. Like if you're safety, you're playing off the line of scrimmage, your eyes are picking up the play from a different perspective. And as a linebacker, and that's a tough job to learn. And I think that there's, some of the coaches looking around saying, all right, maybe Tanner Muse is not ready day one to step in and play linebacker. And of course, we know that his role is going to be very, very much special teams oriented. So Raekwon McMillan kind of fills that spot, that third linebacker role. Really, 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 really good against the run. I can't use enough superlatives there. He's really, really good against the run. Certainly questions in coverage as a linebacker, not the all-around player that you would want necessarily, but absolutely a run-stuffing linebacker. So he comes in, he'll get a shot to play there. Corey Littleton, of course, the newcomer at linebacker, much more the pass coverage guy, and that's something that they really needed. They've been really bad in coverage the last couple of years against tight ends and running backs, and that's because they haven't had much in the linebacker core in terms of coverage. So, you've got an interesting mix of players. Really good on the coverage, Littleton. Really good against the run with Kwiatkowski, and now Raekwon McMillan. And now you've got some other young prospects like Javen White and Tanner Muse that are going to be fighting out for those spots. The question, I guess, specifically was, does this impact Javen White making the team? Yeah, definitely a chance of that. You've got, your three guys now that are established NFL players in Kwiatkowski and Littleton and McMillan. Tanner Muse will almost certainly be on the team. They don't, want to cut bait that quickly, I would think, on somebody who invested so heavily in the draft. So he's there. Javen has a shot. There's some other, established guys in the linebacker core that also have a shot to make the team. So yeah, Javen White maybe falls a little bit behind. Is Nick Morrow going to make the team? We'll see. A couple other guys have kind of stood out. Like Justin Phillips has done some work there. I don't know. We will see. But if Javen White does not make the team, I can assure you he will make the practice squad at worst. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is released if some other team swoops in and grabs him, because reports have been so good on what he's doing here in training camp. So, yeah, impacted slightly for now, but we will see how that plays out. The Javen White story is far from over, and I'm not discounting the fact that he can still make the team, because they have loved everything that he's done since he's been here. No question about that. Jumping in and seeing some more stuff here. We had some questions on Twitter that I was trying to get to as I'm scrolling through here. Yes, I'm trying to kill a second here as I get over to the question that came in earlier about who starts between Amig, Robertson, and Lamarcus Joyner. Day one, if you're gonna make a wager on this, or if you want the opinion right now, I think it's going to be Lamarcus Joyner. He's a veteran guy that's been around, one of the few players that has experience in that secondary, especially at the cornerback position. And when you've got young corners, because it does look like now they are set on Damon Arnett and Trayvon Mullen, a first year and a second year corner starting, and I think that's the kind of thing that potentially gives a defensive coordinator some nightmares. The night before the first game, and you're going in with such little experience at corner, you're probably nervous about things. However, they are really, really excited, and they should be. The way that Trayvon Mullen played down the stretch last year, the way that Damon Arnett has played in training camp this year, gives them confidence. And I think one of the things you want to point out is that Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator, said the other day, he's like, yeah, they're young, and yeah, you're worried, and you get some nerves about it, but you also don't have guys coming in that have been in the league for 5 years, playing under different coaches, developing bad habits. Like, these are guys we have right from the beginning of their career that we can coach the way we want to coach them, and teach them to play the position the way we want them to play the position. So there's no bad habits to unlearn. So I find that as a fairly interesting comment from him, being ready to go into the season with a first and second year corner. But then if you throw in the mix that your nickel corner would be a rookie as well, if you start Amik Robertson, then you start to really maybe get some nerves there about your secondary. And again, excitement, because I think the talent is on another level, but also some nerves about the experience there. So especially, four games in the season, 5 games in the season, you have the Chiefs. Is that rookie secondary ready? We'll find out, but they'll have a few games to get there. But yeah, from day one, I think when you're looking at this, you might go Lamarcus Joyner, if for no other reason than a guy that has experience that can help them out. That's on the field. If he's playing the nickel, he can look out at Arnett and say, hey, you need to be lined up here, or you need to shade this guy to the outside, or this guy is going to try to run off of you at the line. Whatever advice he can help them out with. I think having that experience is going to help. However, I will say the level of optimism for Amig Robertson has been and probably should be sky high. That guy just wants to play corner in the NFL. There's a different attitude that you see from some of those guys that you just know they're a cornerback, and they are insistent that they're going to be, very, very capable players at this level. And you just get that feeling about him. I don't think there's any question about it. So Amig Robertson will be the starter at some point this year, in my mind. Also, just a little side note on that, he has been playing on the outside some. So I know, people looked at him as the slot corner, the nickel corner, however you want to phrase it. But he's been playing some on the outside. And again, a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience on those outside corner positions, especially after the release of Prince Kamara, which we also had a question about, and I'll get into that. So much inexperience, but also the talent. And I think there's a lot of excitement, and with good reason, about that defensive backfield. Now they're going to need a lot of help up front. They need the pass rushers to get to the quarterback and not let them sit back in the pocket and just scan the field, because if receivers have time, they will get open against anyone. But I think with that defense working together, a lot of optimism about where they are. And yeah, the question about Abu Kamara, he was released. He, to me, was brought in as an insurance policy. That's the best way to put it in my mind. He's a guy that they brought in. They wanted to see where he was. They know what he could do, but they wanted to see where he was at this stage of his career, how ready he was. And basically was, hey, if Damon Arnett is not ready, if for whatever reason, he's not ready to take over and just be a starter from day one after being picked in the first round, then you've got Prince Kamara, who has been around the league, who has plenty of experience, who they know can play at this level, that they've got him to slide in there. But when Damon Arnett won the job, and it was clear that Damon Arnett had won the job, and then Trayvon Mullen, who suffered an injury, but it was less severe than they expected. When Trayvon Mullen got hurt, whatever it was, the team was very fearful that it was going to be a long-term issue. But he was back at practice yesterday, and I don't think it's any coincidence that him coming back to practice coincides with Abu Kamara getting released. So Trayvon Mullen, David Arnett on track to be day one starters. No real need, really, to keep Abu Kamara around. He was going to be the starter until Arnett was ready. Arnett is ready, so they move him on. And I think part of releasing him early, first they needed to make a roster move for Raekwon McMillan coming in, but also they give him a couple extra days to get ahead of the game with all these guys getting cut over the weekend. Cut down day coming up on Saturday. They give him a couple extra days to try to find a spot before there's an onslaught of free agents hitting the market on Saturday after other teams make their cuts. And along those lines, we should get into that a little bit. Very, very, very different practice squad situation this year. Usually you've got a really narrow criteria of basically just first and second year players, a couple of guys that you can use, a couple slots you can use on some older players, but really it's just rookies and guys that are not established really in the league. This year that's a little different. You're allowed to keep a practice squad that actually has experience, that has really no limitations on it, because teams are going to probably anticipate at some point, maybe having some positive cases and needing to go to backups and guys that are on call. So they're going to allow you to have an expanded practice squad of players with experience. So it's going to look a lot different. I think often, the practice squad is mostly guys that the average fan has never heard of. This year, there'll be a lot of those guys, but there'll also be a couple of established names, I think, that you're kind of surprised or like, oh, that guy's on a practice squad. Well, yeah, he's really just on standby. He's an extra roster player that teams are going to be able to use just in case something goes wrong with COVID at some point. So that is certainly something to monitor as well as we get down to cut-down day on Saturday. We would have had all these preseason games. We would have had 3 preseason games in the books. There would have been an Allegiant Stadium game already in the books. We have not been able to see these guys on the field, which I think also leads into we talked to Rich Bisaccia, special teams coach, yesterday, and he talked a little bit about, really live game situations. Exhibition games are the only time they really get to see some of these younger players really, go down and make plays on the kickoff, on the punt. How are these guys? Because the fringe roster guys that are, that are 50-50 maybe to make the team or that are on the bubble, their best way of making the team, especially a lot of the linebackers and running backs and receivers, those guys, is to do it through special teams. And if they can't, if they can't play special teams in a live game setting, like an exhibition game, they don't have the chance to stand out. So one of the things Rich Bisaccia said is that they've done a good job altering practice, and obviously John Gruden's in charge of the practice schedule, but he said he's done a good job altering practice so that there's more and more special teams time so you can see these guys, but you're not seeing them hit. Like, as he said, you go right up to the pop, right up to when you're going to make a big hit, and then you back off. You don't hit because that is how training camp is now with not much hitting. So you don't really get to see those guys who can tackle, who can actually, follow through and make a play, who can't just get to the ball, but can, bring the ball carriers to the ground. All those things you're not really getting to see. So some of these guys that are gamers that really don't show out on the practice field as much, but they're just ready for game night, some of those guys are just not able to make that same impression this year. So as much as people make fun of the preseason, and I saw some, celebration and jubilation about no exhibition games this year, there is a cost to that for some of these players that may otherwise have had a chance to make the roster and now might not have that chance. So that is definitely one of the side effects of having no preseason. As we look for Cutdown Day on Saturday, will there be a major surprise? I feel like there will, and I'm not ready to make a prediction. I think we'll do that later on this week of maybe who might or might not make the team, but I certainly think that there's guys that you believe watching it are going to be on the team, and you're looking at the roster and say, yeah, that guy's definitely making it. And I just feel like there might be a surprise or two where you're like, wow, I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming. I didn't know that was going to happen. I feel like that's going to happen on a lot of teams, not just the Raiders, because it is such a weird offseason. We haven't seen, usually you get to see exactly where guys stand by where they play in the preseason. And if they play a guy a lot, oftentimes it's not a good sign. We don't get to see that this year. We do get to watch practice. We don't really get to report on what's going on under the coverage rules this year. But I do expect a lot of teams need to have some surprise cuts here on Saturday, and that could lead to a mad scramble of teams trying to make moves. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders are looking at every single team and who gets cut and trying to find ways to make themselves better. That's always the goal, and that's something that John Gruden and Mike Mack have talked about of, every single day trying to get better, and that a lot of that will be Sunday and Monday next week, starting Saturday afternoon and then into Sunday and Monday, scanning every single team's cuts and trying to figure out where can you get better, who can make you better. They've done it throughout this offseason. It happens in training camp every year, but you saw a guy like Theo Riddick brought in, and I think there was a lot of reaction of like, why? They've got their running backs pretty set. They believe in who they've got here. Well, Theo Riddick has been very impressive on the practice field. He's a guy who's been successful at the NFL level, has had some ups and downs, some inconsistency, but he's looked very good. And so you bring those guys in to see, exactly how they look and how close to being ready to compete on Sundays this guy is. And I'd say Theo Riddick has looked like he's ready. Does he make the team? If he does, at whose expense? Who goes? So those are all very fascinating to watch. The receivers are really interesting. Names that everybody knows. You start looking around at the roster. Tyrell Williams is a big question mark. He's going to try to play through his injury. He thinks. I wouldn't be totally stunned if he started the season on IR, but right now he says he's going to try to play through it. Then you've got Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow. Those are the 3 starters. Brian Edwards will step in for Tyrell Williams. You got Nelson Aguilar, Zay Jones have both been very, very impressive here in the preseason and training camp. But then you've got, think of who's in that group afterwards. If you keep 6 and Tyrell Williams is active, that's your 6, right? That's your 6 guys right there. Williams, Ruggs, Renfrow, Edwards, Aguilar, Jones. So Rico Gafford, where does he go? Is he practice squad guy? Is he a casualty of it? Keelan Doss, another guy, the hero from last training camp who went to he got signed away and then they brought him back. They gave him guaranteed money. Everybody loves him, and he's had some inconsistent days at training camp, but he's had some real standout days as well. Is he in danger? I would say, if Tyrell Williams is playing, you would have to look at him being on the outside looking in. Marcel Aitman, the guy who's been around the program for a couple of years now, he's in that group too. But then if Tyrell Williams is on IR, does that open one extra spot? Now do you look at, okay, which one of those guys fights their way in, and how much is special teams a factor, and who it is? I would say a major factor for wide receivers that are at the bubble on the roster. So maybe Rich Bisaccia has the last word on which of those guys makes the team. But you've got that at a lot of different positions, which is a really good thing for the Raiders. For any team, what you want is competition at all these positions. You want a tough decision on cut day of who's going to make the team and who's not. And we're going to have that coming up this week. I'm just trying to make sure here that there's no other questions. We have a question on another topic, but I said you could ask about anything. Somebody wants me to explain, in my words, the block charge rule in basketball. We don't have time for that. This will be like a 4-hour video, and I'm not going to do that to you guys. There's a couple other questions that I don't think have anything to do with the Raiders, so we'll probably skip over those. And here's one. Good luck if you think Mariota is staying healthy. Well, right now he's not. So I guess we already have established that for this week. Has not practiced the last 3 practices that we've been to. So right now he's working his way back to the field. But I wouldn't hold that against him just yet. We don't exactly know what is going on with Marcus these last couple of days. And the team has said he expects to be back very, very, very soon, certainly before the start of the season in 10 days, which is going to be in Carolina, if you didn't see the story yesterday, with no fans. No fans for the Panthers for the opener against the Raiders. So that means the first 4 weeks, it looks like, if everything holds up, there'll be no fans for the Raiders. They'll go to Carolina with no fans. Back to Vegas, no fans here all season, according to Mark Davis. Then you go to New England, who has no fans for September. And finally to just lost track of this in my mind as I was walking through this. Week 5 is Kansas City. Oh, yeah, Carolina, Vegas, New England, Vegas. And then Kansas City week 5 will be 22% capacity for their stadium. So that'll be the first time there's fans. That'll be at Arrowhead, but very, very, very reduced seating at those games. Heard the tickets are going to be very pricey, so try to get some official word on that for those that do want to get in to see maybe Raiders and Chiefs. If you want to make that trip, you're going to definitely be paying for it as we get closer to that. Just making sure here, didn't have anything else we needed to answer. Doesn't look like it. As we said, you guys definitely can just send us in questions all week long. Either myself, Vinny, Heidi, Cass, anybody on the stream. Make sure you follow along Vegas Nation, the Vegas Nation app. All 4 Raiders info throughout the week. We'll be out there practicing tomorrow, Wednesday. Check us out then. For the rest of the Vegas Nation, Larry back to the studio, everybody. We thank you, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you again next week.